We wanted to have a graphic novel, we wanted to have a sound installation, we wanted to have a performance, a book, a website or a digital platform, a film.
But there are also like common questions in a way that we all ask. What is this kind of material discursive force of drawing, for instance? What is the material discursive force of sound? To reveal something very complex, right? Political situation at an historical point in time, at a particular place.
Concept of immersion, we started out with a deliberately naive one, which was we want to have an unmediated encounter with the thing. So take off the thinking hat and put on the feeling hat. That's kind of the way I imagine it, is this very kind of naive, just have the experience. Then later, think about your experience and, put your thinking hat back on.
The situation that brought us to the moment of applying for a project like this was a series of developments in this department in which we've been engaging with multimodality and multimodal anthropology in different ways. And together with that, basically the observation that not only at this department, but throughout the discipline, anthropologists and also social scientists are increasingly engaging with multimodal formats to both rethink the ways in which they do research, but also obviously transform the ways in which they produce accounts of different fields in which they are engaged.
We all knew that we needed to learn more about the state of the art of multimodal works. So we all came with a different background and we brought these different expertise together, I think, to create kind of a digital archive for ourselves to learn. And so we collected, I think, 58 international multimodal projects. And we started to ask questions.
If the task of anthropology has been to relate to others, to relate to different fields, and in those fields we are seeing an increasing use of different media, it makes sense that also the ways in which we respond to that and we create correspondence to that is also through the use of media and material and design projects.
So we started imagining a workshop in which we would be first acquainting ourselves with the work for half an hour, 40 minutes, trying to come to terms with what it was bringing, then writing down our impressions to collectively share them, and finding an input from someone working, a specialist or an expert coming from an area of practice. For instance, a sound piece, we would find a sound studies person, a film, we would find a film studies person, and so on and so forth. A digital platform, someone coming from critical software studies. And what we wanted to create were the conditions so that we would learn from existing bodies of literature, existing conditions of evaluation, how could we appreciate this thing that we have in front of us. So first, an immersion, writing down some notes, then having an input from someone, and then having an extremely elaborate moment of 45 minutes with everyone in the room sharing their conditions of how to attribute value, how to enrich our experience of these different kinds of works.
So we asked the question about production, language, process, accessibility, materiality.
So when we watched the images from the protests of the Arab Spring, Greece and Occupy, we were certain that nothing like that could happen here. Much public anger has centered on the mayor individually.
Because I'm committed to non-violence.
think about how a film might kind of embody a kind of visual argumentation or proposed concept work. So we could still stay within that valuation framework that already exists, but try and push it, expand it. But I'm thinking we're also probably going to need to argue for new values.
Engaging with multimodal works requires delving deep into how, like drawing, how visual means of expression, how sonic recording and editing became this multimodal work, right? And I think one thing that we came across when looking at all these different works, it is more this focus on the process, which came very crucial to us in understanding the work. Again, like not the work as something fixed, as something complete.
Is this work good because it explains something well, or is it good or relevant because it evokes something and it brings the reader, the viewer, into an experience that itself is one of learning or insight? Those would be two very different ways of evaluating something. Explication versus evocation.
I would say that the new multimodal turn that we experience in anthropology has a lot to do with the digital. Because multimodality already existed before, but just very differently, I would say. Always existed somehow, but the digital is really a turning point in order to create projects like that. That function transnationally, let's say, that functions easily in different languages and are accessible in different places in the world. And also montage much more easy, different documentations and genres.
We realize that one of the problems is that people who are responsible for assessing something as relevant or good, a piece of work as a relevant contribution, don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to assess it. They don't know how to appreciate it or evaluate it. And so part of this project is really being able to kind of bring people into awareness, bring people into appreciation of, bring people into a valuing of what these works have to offer, what their affordances are.
So multimodal work is a lot about inventing different modes of relating to fields by non-discursive means. So it's a highly inventive space, and somehow what we are doing is to think about the relationship between inventions and conventions. The problem or the conundrum that we see at the moment in the discipline, we observe that many of these multimodal projects, many of these multimodal artifacts are on the one hand highly celebrated as fascinating projects that people are doing, but at the same time, when it comes to the different systems of institutional recognition within the discipline, they are still perhaps not taken into account as, let's say, classical journal articles or monographs are taken into account. So there is an issue with the politics of acknowledging the scholarly value of multimodal productions, multimodal artifacts, multimodal engagements in anthropology.